Hey y'all, I'm Lakhia,
And I'm James.
and you are listening to the Message 24 podcast, where each week we're talking about relationships, the growing pains of being a 20-something, and pretty much everything else in between.
Yeah, so join us every Wednesday for our new episodes.
Bye. See you guys then.
Bye-bye. Have a beautiful time. You want us to do the clap?
Sure.
1, 2, 3.
Is that going to be in the video?
No, that's not going to be in the video, but I can put it in there if you want me to.
No, I don't think it should be. I don't think it should be in there. All right, well, let's get to it. Hello. Thank you all for tuning in. Don't do that. Don't do that.
It's always crazy, like, starting out these episodes because you don't know whether you should introduce and, like, give a whole background of the podcast or if you should just jump right into it. So.
Yeah. Well, I think we have an intro now. So certain stuff we don't have to do. Like, they know who we are when we drive, whatever,
Right.
whatever.
Which is nice.
Yeah. But what I can get started with is our In the DM for this week. And if this is your first time listening to this amazing podcast, our In the DM is basically our topic for the week that we will be talking about. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see that I have a blanket across my lap, and it's because it is freezing in here. Someone decided to cut our air on 64 degrees.
Hey.
And I'm cold, so my legs are wrapped up in this little blanket because it's chilly.
Well, we do have this big weighted blanket, and for some reason I sweat really
sweat bad.
Yes, so being that I sweat really bad, we got it on 64, so
Yes.
it's gonna stay there, and I haven't been sweating, which is good.
And I've been freezing. I've been wearing my robe, my fuzzy slippers, my fuzzy blanket, the whole nine. So
I got on pants, so that's why I'm good.
my legs is cold having a dress. But if in case you were wondering, that's why it might come off at some point during the episode.
Oh, it don't need to come off. Well, I know when it needs to come off.
You're being bad. Okay. I see what this is gonna see what night we're about to have. All right. So in the DM for this week is setting boundaries. So we will kind of be talking about sharing the importance of boundary setting, who you should set boundaries with, and who the boundaries are actually for. So I started first last week. You can take the floor, Mr. Huntley.
Cool. So I guess I can start out with who you should set boundaries with. And I say you should set boundaries with every person that you come into contact with.
Yes, I agree.
And that you have a relationship with. I think it's interesting. We go to work or we're in school and we're very, very busy in our day-to-day lives. And you come across so many different people. And I didn't think I would need to set boundaries with certain people. Specifically like my friends or family members or I figured I would have to set some in a relationship just because you see that person all the time.
Yeah.
And I knew that I would need to set work, a boundary for work with some of my coworkers and some upper management.
Having no work-life balance.
You said what?
Some people don't have a work-life balance.
Yes.
And they want to send emails at like 1:00 in the morning.
Yes.
Don't send me an email at 1:00.
So you have to set those boundaries. And what's his name on TikTok? DeAndre Brown or whatever. I think that's his name, where he makes fun.
Yeah.
Pretty much how work life is, and really that you should be setting boundaries with upper management. So I definitely think like you have to set boundaries with everyone around you. I think it just saves you a bunch of time, energy, and you know, I think it builds a form of respect.
Yeah.
Because if everyone around you knows that you already have boundaries and they know what to expect, they're probably not gonna try to overstep those, especially if you've made them pretty clear.
They shouldn't, but I think there are a lot of times where people do cross boundaries, even though that they know that they've been set.
Right.
So I, of course, agree with everything that you said. I think number one, though, for one, boundaries, you should have boundaries with everybody. But I also think you need to have boundaries with yourself. Because a lot of times, and I can speak for myself, a lot of times when someone has crossed a boundary, and if I don't check them when they do it and then they do it again, that's my fault. Because I should have said something then, because now they have it in their head that whatever they're doing or they're saying is okay because I let it go and check the first time.
Right.
So number one, I think you have to set boundaries with yourself. And I think it's really important to know that you have the permission and that you deserve to set boundaries with people. I know, like, sometimes with family, it can be hard to set a boundary. Because you're like, this person is important. With anybody, honestly, this person is important. I want them in my life. They've done XYZ for me. But even if that is the case, you still deserve to create and have a boundary with that person if you feel like they're overstepping or, doing something that you don't necessarily like.
Right.
So, like I said, I agree with everything you said. And of course, with work, people not contacting you outside of work hours, I'm about to set up the out of the office thing on my email. So when people email me on the weekends, just so you know, I won't see this till Monday.
Right.
And it's just like, even when I send emails to other people, if I am sending emails on a weekend, I always schedule send it for 8:00 Monday. I don't send somebody an email on a weekend.
And certain people have certain boundaries for themselves.
Yeah.
And sometimes those boundaries don't match. And I think that can be problematic because, let's just say, for example, I know my boss, she has more responsibilities. And in her job title, I would believe that it probably says that she needs to be responding to things a little bit more than what I would need to be.
Yeah.
So when you're able to set those boundaries, it kind of, even though your boundaries are a little bit different, it still let both people know where they kind of stand. But you have to be clear. And when you said it's okay to have boundaries with yourself, I totally agree. My only challenge with that is very weird because I'm a person who is not big on conflict or what's the word?
Confrontation.
Yes. I knew you would be able to read minds here.
You know.
Yeah, so I'm a person who really struggles with confrontation. And it's almost as if when something happens, you may not even be ready for it. Well, speaking for myself.
Yeah.
When something happens and someone oversteps their boundaries, I think I have so much respect for myself and so much peace of mind that I don't even think that someone would overstep their boundaries. That's just how I feel. So when someone does, then it forces me to have to be confrontational. And so that is something that I think takes time and takes a bit of communication too.
Yeah, I, of course, 100% agree with that. And I think I am one of those people who I have cultivated and created a life for myself that is very peaceful. It's very drama free. I mean, school is stressful as hell,
right?
But that's just what it's going to be. Right. I can only control that so much.
Right.
But because I have created this type of life for myself, sometimes when things come up with people, instead of addressing them head on and saying, this is what it is, this is bothering me, this is how I would like to move forward, I won't say anything for the sake of keeping the peace. Because it's just I'm not about to argue with you. I'm not about to. And every time you disagree with somebody, it does not have to be an argument.
Right.
Which is a behavior I'm trying to unlearn. And I've noticed that sometimes that is what keeps me from speaking up and letting somebody know, hey, this kind of bothered me because I'm just trying to keep the peace because I don't want my life to be chaotic.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. And I think when I get in that confrontational moment, I don't know how to gather my emotions
Yeah.
and gather all the words that I need to say in the best format possible.
Yeah.
And I say that because I know how I am. I'm not a fighter. I'm not a person who gets like really physical or someone who comes off disrespectful.
Yeah.
But if you kind of get disrespectful with me, then you may see a little bit
We're gonna take it there.
a different side of James.
Yeah.
So I think for me, I just, even in those moments, I just need that time to gather myself, gather my thoughts, and then let that person know, this is what bothered me or whatever.
Well, I think that's a good idea because anytime I respond to somebody in the moment, you don't want to hear the first thought that's going to come out of my head because not I'm shaking the table. My water over there shaking.
Yeah, I don't know how that's happening.
I don't know, but I'm gonna try.
You're dropping some gems for real.
Try to keep it cute.
I think you gotta slide it over just a bit.
Yeah, I'm gonna just keep it cute and hope it don't fall. But I was saying that a lot of times people do not want to hear the first thing that I'm thinking because it's not going to be good. Right. And also, I would be doing a disservice to myself because when I'm so wrapped up in my emotions, sometimes I can't even pinpoint exactly why that bothered me. Like, I go back to the feelings with a lot. Am I angry because I feel like you disrespected me? Am I angry because I feel like I'm not being heard? So sometimes it's important to just go back and sit with yourself and gather your feelings and your thoughts. And I've also had someone do or say something to me, and because I feel like I waited, I couldn't say anything.
I see. So you're saying pretty much there's a time. Do you think people have like a time frame on when they should announce what their boundaries are? So if someone oversteps them, because I felt like that also, like if someone oversteps their boundaries, I feel like really you have about 24 hours to go ahead and address it. If not, then you're just gonna be frustrated.
Yes.
And that person technically,
boy, do I know. Boy, don't I know.
That person technically will not know, and they're going to be at peace.
Yes, so, and you will be sitting with that shit on your chest.
Sick. Yes.
And it's not a good feeling. I'm here to tell you, it's not a good feeling. Right. I do think, my first thought initially was to say that there isn't a time mark on letting someone know they crossed a boundary, but it is. I think it depends on you. Who you are, because I don't know how long it takes somebody to really sit and process their emotions. I think like 24 to 72 hours you need Max. To have it together and be like, and also I've said this before and I'll say it again, having the language makes things a lot less scary. Okay. So if someone did something to you and you've actually had time to sit with it, you can say, this upset me because whatever you did or said caused me to feel disrespected. It caused me to feel unheard. It caused, whatever. You have the language, and sometimes that makes what you're going to say a lot less scary. Right. I think that's something we've talked about a lot is communication can be hard, but once you have the words, and sometimes I even have to rehearse what I'm going to say to people, to be honest. Because it makes me feel better. Like I know what I'm going to say. And sometimes I will even go as far as to have a response for a rebuttal. Like if I think they're going to say this, I'm going to hit you with this. If you say this, I'm going to hit you with that.
I think that's a very smart idea because it kind of allows you to not just be expecting one answer.
Yes.
Or if something different gets thrown at at you, you have a few different responses. You never know how the conversation is going to go.
You don't.
But the more prepared,
The better. I definitely agree. The more prepared you are for the conversation, the better. The less scary it's going to be. Okay, so I think we can jump into send or delete.
That's fun.
Okay.
Whatever.
I'm just staying on the outline. That's all. So our send or delete segment, for those if this is your first time listening, this is where we normally will chime in on a topic that's popular, give our opinion, or sometimes when we have guests, we use it kind of like as a this or that icebreaker situation. So since we are talking about setting boundaries, I came across a TikTok video that a Black woman, she's a therapist, and she was talking about grieving saying yes. Mm-hmm. So I am going to play that video and then we can kind of talk about how that plays into setting boundaries.
I just think some of us need to be reminded that we are going to grieve making the right decision sometimes. Oftentimes, grief is reserved for things that happen to us instead of things that we initiate. The truth is, you are going to make the right decision for yourself, and you may still have to grieve. Because doing the right thing doesn't mean that it'll feel good, and doing the right thing does not mean you're not losing something. I just feel like someone needs to hear that and be validated. It's okay for you to make the right decision and still grieve how it affects you.
So that video to me, it could represent a lot of different things. It could be saying yes to a job, being saying yes to a move, being saying yes to a relationship, being saying yes to a bunch of different things. But as we're talking about boundaries, sometimes saying yes to yourself and honoring your boundaries is hard because of what can come with it. If I'm saying yes to no longer allowing people to treat me a certain type of way and talk to me a certain type of way, if somebody is not willing to change or honor the boundary that I've set, I have to come to terms with the reality that this might not be somebody I'm going to have in my life anymore.
Right.
And I could be making a stretch and just trying to make this video fit that. But to me, that's what I got out of it, because I was already thinking about boundaries when I saw the video. And I'm like,
Yeah, I will say my favorite word is no.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you about that.
I think you know that. I think my family knows that. And I think a lot of my friends know that. No. When I say no, it's saying yes to myself to a certain extent. Because when you make agreements, when you tell others yes, sometimes that kind of backfires and takes away from yourself. Mm-hmm. And that can be problematic at times. So I think it's very important to choose yourself.
Yes.
And say yes to yourself. And sometimes in that process, you're going to have to say no to others. Now, are you always going to have to say no? No.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not. To preserve your peace, hopefully you will be able to say yes sometimes. Yeah. But what I've found is for your peace of mind, for everyone to be on the same page, when you say no, everybody's perfectly clear. Like, I cannot be at this event. You know that, and I know that.
Yeah.
Or I can be at that event. Mm-hmm. And being that I've said yes, now I've made commitment. So now if I don't show up, there's going to be an issue. There's conflict. So you have to make sure when you do say yes to anything, you're able to hold your end of the bargain.
Yeah.
And that you're able to, meet whatever expectations that you have agreed to. So
yeah. I think that's good, because sometimes when you say no, a lot of times when I tell people no, I can't do something, is because I'm saying yes to myself. Like, it's not that I don't want to do this with you, but I need to do this for me.
Right.
So I think that's a really good point. And you do say no a lot.
I do.
You will say no right now. You will say no. You will say no.
Well, it's for a reason. At some point, the no's will switch over to yes.
I know.
And I have it in that's how I have it in my head. And there's this thing, I think you brought this to my attention.
I did.
It was a book that you were reading, and I think it was with Michelle Obama and one of her friends. I don't believe that Michelle Obama was able to hang out as much as this other friend was able to, and the friend ended up passing away or something.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
So being that this Michelle Obama's friend, she was able to have a good time. She was always making sure she, had a good time while she was on Earth.
Traveled, did what she wanted to do, ate what she wanted to eat. Yeah.
Yes. So being that I say no a lot, I pray that it does not backfire, because when you do sacrifice, when you do say no to things, you do sacrifice yourself, or you do make sacrifices, but for the long term, I'm hoping that I'm able to say yes like 10 times more.
Yeah.
Later down the road. And I'm not the type of person who says no to everything, but I will say yes some, but the majority is no because of the vision that I have, and sadly having to sacrifice.
I think it's a balance.
Yeah.
Everything is literally a balance. Right. Because sometimes when you say yes to other people, you saying no to yourself. And when you say no to you, when you say yes to other people, but also I don't think every time you say yes to somebody else is a no for you.
Correct.
Because there are some, like, if you wanted to go out and you wanted to do something and you said yes, I don't think that's necessarily saying no to you if that's something that you also wanted to do.
Right.
So I think with everything in life, it's a balance. And I know a lot of us 20-somethings right now, we are just getting in our careers, still working towards getting in our careers. So there are a lot of things and opportunities that might come across that we're not able to take right now because we're just not there.
Right.
And I know that your 20s, you don't get your 20s back.
No, you don't.
You don't get your 20s back. So there are things I'm going to be I have to say no to because I'm in school. I can't just get up and just move. I wish I could just get up and move. I have to say no. But there will be times where I can say yes.
Right.
And hopefully, when I'm in my 30s or even late 20s, because I'll be done with school before I'm 30.
Yes.
All of my no's will have paid off so that I can say yes a lot more.
Yes. Us ultimately, we on the same page.
Yeah. I mean, of course. That's what it is. So now we are moving into our Help Center segment. And this is where we normally are giving a tip, advice to whatever topic we're talking about, or somebody gives us a question. I also want to preface this by saying we are not experts.
No, by any means.
By any means. Yeah. But I do think that we are committed to learning and committed to growing and developing. And these are just things that we either have learned already or we're learning.
We're currently learning.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So one of the things I just learned are that there are multiple type of boundaries. So there are about 6 different boundaries. Yes, this is breaking news to me. I'm just learning. So material, and that just means what you're willing and what you're not willing to share with somebody else. So there are certain little snacky snacks I like that I don't want to share with you. And you have certain little snacky snacks that you like that you don't want to share with me.
I feel like, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I feel like I'm about to have a lot of these boundaries because I got a hell of a lot of boundaries.
Yeah, you do. You do.
So I feel like you had to name a bunch of shit that I be doing that I don't even know that
you do it.
Which is great.
I didn't think about material because when you come to your popcorn, you do not want. Yes, it's always get back. My favorite
word is get back. She be trying to dig in my popcorn.
You be digging in me.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. We're gonna take a quick break.
So that's something I didn't know that's a material boundary that you have. So I try not to really interrupt your popcorn, and I can't really think of a snacky snack that I had. If it's something sweet, you better get back with me.
Yeah,
I'm not
especially if I
sharing.
like dog it. Like you're not a big fan of being doggish, and so if you have like some ice cream or something, I just fuck your shit up.
That shit gonna piss me off.
I think the gummies. You do have a.
Yes.
I feel like you don't hate that.
I don't. It's just like, why are we going through a 60-pack of gummies in 2 weeks? Like, it's ridiculous.
That's how it should be.
No, it should not. A 60-pack of gummies should last like 2 months.
Welch's Fruit Snacks.
You still haven't bought anymore.
I'm not gonna say nothing because we should be sponsored by
Exactly. Exactly. But you still haven't bought any more gummies for this house because they get missing way too quick. But I will buy them when you go to your conference.
Oh wow.
I'm gonna have some gummies up in here.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
You're gonna do me like that?
I sure am.
That's crazy.
Because you do me crazy and eat the whole box of gummies.
No, I rationed them out.
There's no rations going on. These cameras I know you're on, there is no rations going on. Okay. So that's a material boundary. Then you have physical boundaries. And you basically have these to protect your space.
Get back.
And your privacy. Get back.
I think get back is going to be good for all of these.
I don't really know.
Like that I feel like the physical boundary definitely for just people, just in general. Like I don't want them too close to my face. Yeah. I don't need them too close in my personal space. They need to get back.
Well, I think that also goes for like us. Like certain stuff, I know how you like your bathroom. You know how I like my bathroom. You know how I like the kitchen to be.
Oh, so we're not talking about like our body space.
No, it is. I think it's still personal space and privacy, but our bathrooms are our
like space,
like kind of our space. But of course, people don't need to be too close to me. We get back like for real. But I think that also plays into a part of, the things that are ours, and we want them to be a certain type of way. And if it's not, you don't really have a problem saying, "Hey, baby." This is also something I will say with setting a boundary with somebody. And it's not even really a boundary, but it's kind of like a compliment sandwich. So if there was something that you did that I don't like, I always will start with, "Baby, I appreciate you for doing this. Thank you for doing this." And then I say, "But next time, can you do this? I thank you for making my life easier. I really appreciate all that you do." So you don't really just want to come out and tell somebody they a piece of shit for doing something that you didn't like that they did. Especially if they didn't know that was a boundary for you. How are they supposed to know? You didn't tell them.
Right.
2, I think just because you put a boundary in place, that doesn't mean something is going to change overnight. I think it's going to take a little bit of time. But also talk to somebody how you would want somebody to talk to you. Like if you have no problem telling me if I'm doing something that bothers you, but you don't like just say it any type of way,
right? Because
you care about my feelings and I care about your feelings. So I'm just very conscious in the way that I word things to you or to anybody else, to be honest.
And that takes great communication skills. Yeah. Let me say that, because initially I think when there were issues, I don't know if I was able to say them in the right tone. And I struggle with communication anyways, but I don't know if I was able to communicate it with a tone that you would be able to process what I was saying and not immediately get upset.
In the beginning, no.
And I will say this. I think when you are actually able to communicate that with the other person, when someone is communicating that to you, you're able to accept it a lot better.
Yes.
It's crazy because we've had instances, I feel like, where I was able to communicate what it was that I needed from you, or boundaries or whatever it might have been. And I'm just laying it on. But then if you laid it on back to me,
you wouldn't like
I would get defensive.
Yes.
And not the cat.
I heard this cat. Stormy, please, baby. Please.
Trying to get in the audio too.
He is.
Yeah, when you would mention something that you didn't like, I'm getting all defensive. I'm getting all like, why are you coming after me? Like,
you would always be like, I feel like I'm not meeting your expectations.
Right. And once I was able to understand how you received information, then I think I was a little bit more okay with being able to accept what I'm struggling with, or what I'm not meeting your expectations, or what I'm not doing for you. And I was able to fix that. And it's almost like that thing, constructive criticism.
Yes.
Where you can't get defensive. You just acknowledge that it's something that's taking place.
Yeah.
And come up with a solution so that in the future it's not an issue.
And that's where I learned the compliment sandwich, from giving people constructive criticism. Like, if there is something good that this person is doing, let them know. Right. And then say, okay, this is what I need you to do. Again, thank you for doing this. Like, I really, really appreciate it, because that's how I want somebody to deliver constructive criticism to me. Mm-hmm. Don't just tell me, well, you ain't shit. You need to be doing this and you're not doing that. But what am I doing? Like, I'm doing something. I hope I'm doing something at least. Right. This cat is really
wanting to be in here.
He's not coming in here right now. We working. Okay. Yeah. So there's a physical boundary.
We'll have to bring him on the show.
He would love to be on the show. He would love to be on the show. I would just have to bring him some treats and he will literally sit in between us and be fine. Yes. I think the people would like to see Stormy. I have to bring him in for the next episode. So then there are also mental boundaries. And these establish your rights to have your own thoughts, your own opinions, your own values, your own beliefs, even if they do not align with somebody else's. I think that's a big one. Because sometimes you might find yourself changing what you really think or what you really value to match what somebody else really thinks. Or to match what somebody else thinks, because you don't necessarily want to have a clash with that person, I guess you could say. So say, I can't even think of an example right now. My brain is so scrambled.
I can.
Okay, well, let me hear it.
Just your beliefs and so as a kid, you're trained to do certain things, believe certain things, carry yourself a certain type of way.
Yes.
And so when you become an adult, you start thinking, well, I hope you start thinking, okay, why do I do this? Why am I believing this? Why do I make certain decisions? Why do I emotionally react like this? So I think it just takes a little bit of thinking and asking yourself and reviewing all of your decisions that you make and making sure that it's because you want to make them and it's not because of a family member, a worker pushing their thoughts on you, or just anyone. You need to check why you believe whatever you believe. Yeah. And it's crazy and very smart, because at work there's a reason why in work code you're not supposed to talk about religion,
politics
and all of that stuff, because everyone has their beliefs and people strongly believe certain ways and they have certain values. So when those conflict, it's going to cause issues if both people are being 100%, truthful in those matters. So in order to kind of shield that, I feel like at work, they're like, hey, yo, you do this, you keep quiet. We're here for one common purpose. Yeah. So that niggas can keep making money.
Yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, your beliefs, you have to challenge everything that you think.
I think that's good. Like when you believe in one thing and you've really sat with yourself and it's like, why do I believe this? I think it makes it easier if somebody were to question what you were doing or why you believed in this. Like you could stand 10 toes on it because you've thought about this is why. And just because someone I'm building a relationship doesn't necessarily see this the way that I see it, I don't have to change certain viewpoints are going to change. But because I, believe in Christianity, if you were someone who was an atheist and didn't believe in Christianity, that's not going to change my belief system. And I'm not going to expect my belief system to change your belief system.
Right.
And that's because that's one of those things I have sat with myself, and I understand why I believe this. I understand the importance of my faith, and and if you were someone who wasn't of faith, that's not going to change my belief system.
The funny thing is I feel like we had this conversation. Well, not this exact conversation.
Yeah, it was similar, I think.
But even though you don't have the same beliefs, you still have boundaries on what you will and won't allow yourself to be with or in a relationship. So if someone has a certain belief and you have a different belief, and those beliefs are so different to where it conflicts in the relationship too much, then you just have to go your separate ways.
Yeah.
But I would agree with you. You can't change someone's beliefs just because, well, you can change them, but you shouldn't try to change them or try to force them to switch their beliefs just because you have your own belief system but I think that you will change someone's belief system if they see that the way your belief system and what you do is working.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. But if they see what their belief system and what they're doing is not working, and the belief system that you have and things that you're doing is working, then they see it through action. Yeah. It's not like you're trying to show them or force them to switch their beliefs.
They see by what you're doing. And I was just about to say, I think to some degree, it's not imposing your opinions on somebody else, but just like if I had a bias or you or we both had a bias against a certain group of people, and then I go in and I learned something about that group of people, I'm going to want to come back and share it with you. And that might have changed my thinking, but it might not change your way of thinking.
Right.
Well, that's not a really good example, because when it comes to marginalized groups of people, that's kind of important to me, like how you think about that, which we're on the same page with that completely. That's just an example that I'm using. Okay. I think as we grow and as we learn, there are certain things that we're going to learn more about, and it might change how we think a little bit. And I think it's okay to share that with somebody else, but can I shove that down your throat? No. Right. Will it be received well if I do that? Probably not.
Right.
That sort of thing. So I think to some degree it is.
Yeah, your beliefs, anytime more information and you begin learning different things, it changes your perspective.
And I think it should constantly be changing.
Yes.
My perspective on things is constantly changing. And I don't think as I learn more, as you know better, you do better, that sort of thing. So my perspective changes. On some things it hasn't, but on quite a few things my perspective has been changed. Right. So then we have the emotional boundaries. So your emotions belong to you, and you are only responsible for your emotions.
Oh, I knew that out the womb.
Yes, I knew. Actually, I don't think I knew that for a very long time.
Okay.
Because people would do things, or they would ask me for advice or something. They go do the complete damn opposite of what I just told them. And that would make me...
That would bother you?
It would piss me off, okay? It would make me very angry. Right. Then I had to remember, I can't control them.
I can't control a damn
I have a hard enough time controlling myself, okay?
I'm not doing it.
So I can only be responsible for me. I can only be responsible for my emotions. I can only be responsible for my actions. So if I said something to you and you reacted in a way that I didn't like, I can't control how you respond. I can only control how I then choose to respond to how you responded. I can control that, but I don't get to tell you how to respond to something.
Yep.
Because I don't control you. So that's something that I really struggle with a lot, because it's like you want people to do what you want them to do.
That's a war too.
Yeah,
like,
it is.
I'm just thinking from kind of other relationships that I've seen, just toxic relationships. And this is like this is not mature relationships. This is like younger. Woman or man, they would do things to try to get attention from their girlfriend, boyfriend, whoever, or they would try to make their boyfriend, girlfriend jealous. Once you have done that, you cannot control how that person responds. And if they respond in a savage manner, that's on you. That's on you, and you're stuck with whatever outcome comes from that.
Yeah.
So that it's kind of crazy, but I did learn that early. Like I knew, and I think that was probably from parenting and from just me having my mindset like I can't control nobody, and I know that I want peace, so I'm staying out of the way of probably as many emotions as I can, because once you start bringing in a ton of emotions and getting involved in everybody else's emotional stress and emotional drama, then it plays a toll. It plays a toll on you.
It's baggage. It's carrying on somebody else's emotional baggage. I can't carry it.
You know how I am, because even with us, like I'm like, all right, baby, like it's crazy to say, but how your partner is feeling, it should, their emotions, they should play a role into how you feel.
They do.
Because you're so connected. Yeah. So.
Now we're connected. But yeah, you can't carry other people's emotional baggage. That shit will weigh you down.
Yeah.
So, and you are entitled to your feelings. Well, it kind of plays into the 6 basic types of boundaries. But since we're talking about being responsible for yourself, you don't let anybody make you feel bad for how you feel about something.
Yep.
Right? And don't let people minimize how you feel or gaslight you and be like, well, you're making a bigger deal of this than it needs to be. It's not that serious. Like, you're being dramatic. Don't let people do that to you. Right. Because sometimes people have done that to me and I'm like, well, damn, am I making it bigger than it needs to be? Like, am I being dramatic? Because I can be dramatic. I can admit that I can be dramatic.
They make you rethink things.
Yeah, but no, a lot of times it's just no, like my feelings are hurt or I'm upset by this, and you don't get to tell me how I can feel.
Right.
Nobody can tell me how I can feel but me. Like, I can even honestly, even I don't get to tell myself how to feel, because sometimes something happens and you don't have control of how you feel. Like,
gotcha.
As much as you would not like somebody to upset you, somebody can do something that'll piss you off.
All right.
What I can't control is, if somebody pissed me off in the morning, am I going to let that drag out throughout the day, or am I just going to sit with it in that moment and be like, all right, this happened. I'm not about to let it fuck up the rest of my day. I'm just going to move on.
All right.
So when it comes to emotional boundaries, don't let anybody gaslight you, because I feel like people will do that a lot. When you're telling them like, oh, I didn't know it was that big of a deal, or this. People do that a lot to try to minimize what you're saying to them and how you're feeling. Don't let people do that shit.
Fuck that.
I said, fuck that. But people will do that. So, you know what I'm saying? It's just, I said what I said and I meant it.
Right.
Okay. And you don't get to tell me different. So then you have sexual boundaries, which I should have known that, that's a boundary.
Yeah.
And that's really what it is. Like, how comfortable you are with certain sexual activities.
Right.
I think for people who, may have had traumatic experiences around sex, they might have certain things that they're not comfortable with doing. Right. They might have certain things that trigger them. And in that instance, it is very, very important to set a boundary with somebody. Hey, this makes me uncomfortable because, or even sometimes if you don't even feel comfortable sharing because, you can just say, hey, this makes me uncomfortable. Can we not do this? Can we do something else? I think sexual boundaries are very important.
And that kind of makes me think of, it was some article that I think you put in the outline that I kind of read through, and it talked about the difference between vague and clear boundaries. And like you just mentioned, having a vague boundary would be when someone does something that triggers you, you kind of say, oh, I'm okay. Like, oh, I'm just not in the mood. I'm not in the mood. Or, oh, like you do something that doesn't show what the real issue is. And you don't clearly lay out the boundary. So when you have or set clear boundaries, you say, hey, what you just did triggered A, B, C,
Look
whatever.
At you. Ooh, okay. All right.
You're funny.
I'm listening.
Yeah, so whatever that person did, it triggered something, and you clearly let your partner know, what it was. So having that distinction between clear versus vague boundaries is very important.
I think that's great. That's good. I like that. But what I was going to say was sexual boundaries are very important because sex should be fun. It should be exciting. It should feel good. It should feel good for both people, not just one person.
Right.
So if your partner is doing something sexually that you don't like, maybe they're being too aggressive. Maybe they're not being aggressive enough.
Hitting them corners a little too tough.
You've been in these, you know what I'm saying? Tell them, because if it's not pleasurable for you as well as them, what's the point of doing it? It's no fun. If both people are not having fun having sex, why are you doing it?
Right.
You just spending calories,
right?
Wasting, getting your heart rate up for no reason. It's just, it's no point.
Catching cramps for no reason.
Yeah, it's no. There's no reason to do it. So setting sexual boundaries extremely important because you don't want to go home with a wet ass and you didn't have fun. Okay. So the last spiritual
What?
The last boundary is spiritual. I was about the last spiritual boundary. The last boundary is spiritual. And it kind of goes into mental, because this just allows you to determine and have your own relationship with God or a higher power if you choose to do so. And I think we literally just talked about that with belief systems. We kind of went to relationship with God. Granted, belief systems are bigger than just that. It's bigger than just, do you believe in God? Do you believe in higher power? It's, do you believe like pro-choice? Do you believe pro-life? Like, those are belief systems. Do you know different things like that? So, but we did go straight to religion.
Religion.
But that's kind of what that is. So we don't really have to go back into that too much. So I think we really covered everything, to be honest.
Yeah, I think we touched on each point.
Yeah.
And I think that was a pretty deep combo.
It was. It wasn't as deep as ego death.
No, ego death went over my head. I'm still trying to figure out what.
Ego death was good though. I'm still trying. And I told myself that's something I was working on this school year, is not letting my fucking ego keep me from telling somebody I need help. I don't know what's going on. And I don't really care with nobody else. If you think I'm stupid, that's cool. I ain't stupid because we in the same boat. I am slowly letting that ego die, because it will keep you from doing so much stuff. So that was a really deep conversation, but it was a conversation I'm glad that we had, because I learned a lot. And I know you learned, and I hope our listeners took something from it and they learned as well. So,
and if you haven't watched that episode, be sure to check it out.
Yeah.
That was in season 1 of our earlier episodes. So.
Yeah, Death of the Ego Death, or something like that it was titled. It's a deep episode. It's good. If you're working and you're in a transformative period in your life, like I feel like a lot of us people in our 20s are right now, it's a good episode to listen to.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you all for tuning in and listening to this episode of Big Message 24. We appreciate you all. For those who are return listeners, our messengers, because those are our listeners, our messengers. We appreciate you all. Like, all of this would be nothing if it weren't
For our listeners.
For our support system. We appreciate you. We appreciate you posting, sharing, commenting, subscribing, leaving reviews. We appreciate all of that.
We've been getting a lot of support too. It'd be people that you wouldn't think is sharing your snippets or your reels or your content, and people are sharing it. So very appreciative.
Of course, always. All right, y'all. Well, it's Wednesday. You are almost over the hump. Yes. Yeah, 'cause that's why Wednesday is hump day, right? Yes. Yeah. All right. I hope you all have a great rest of your week, and you know where to find us next week. Same time, same place.
You funny. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Thank y'all so much for tuning in to the Message 24 podcast.
If you enjoy this episode and want to see our faces, be sure to head over to the Message 24 Pod YouTube channel and subscribe. And you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. See you next week.